Hello everyone, my name is Kevin Giesland. I am not a tax or financial expert. I'm a real estate investor that owns a handful of properties, and I would just love to give out information in case it's useful to yourself or your family. So what I want to talk about today is backup plans. I always hear, isn't real estate risky? There's real estate crashes, there's bad tenants, there's all these different things that could happen that could lose you money, and at the end of the day, that's probably what you're looking into real estate for, is trying to get some extra cash. I always say, absolutely it's risky, but anything worthwhile is risky. What do? When you're driving to work every day, there's a reason that you stop at a stop sign and you put your seatbelt on. It's backup plans, it's safety. You're gonna make sure that you put yourself in the best position so when something goes bad, you're ready for it. So, backup plans right here. The first one, I hope everybody has this, it's reserves. All reserves are is extra funds in the bank. So ideally that would be a business account. When you close on the property, you now own a rental, hopefully you have extra in that bank account to offset any repairs, any cleaning, any evictions, anything like that. Myself, I have a 100% made up number. I'm not suggesting anyone go off this. I'm just simply saying what I thought from about 6 or 8 months in until now. I've just never changed my mind on it. I want 2 months of the payment plus $5,000 per house. So let's say if the payment was $1,500 times 2, that's $3,000 plus the additional 5. That means I want $8,000 in my bank account, in my business account at all time extra for that one house. If I've got 10 houses with the exact same payment, then ideally I would want to have $80,000 extra in the account for when something goes wrong. It's not a matter of if, it's when. So you want to make sure that you're covered if the worst thing happens. Second item here is a savings account. Now, by no means am I suggesting that you start commingling funds and putting money from business to checking and savings, personal account to business, or anything like that. All I'm suggesting is just because your day-to-day job and or your real estate is going well, that doesn't mean that you need to stop feeding your savings account. So for myself, my wife and I have a certain amount in our savings account. We never want to go under. Having said that, if our reserves were depleted because 5 properties had the worst thing you could think of all at the same time, we could rely on our savings for a little bit of a cushion. So again, we shouldn't need to touch that. I'm just suggesting, just because you're in a good spot doesn't mean you can't stop, you need to stop growing that account. The third item here, now please understand, I'm not saying I want to do anything on this list. I'm just saying that you have backup plans if absolutely necessary. This stands for line of credit or a loan. So to give you an example, my buddy and I had a $20,000 CD. That CD is with a bank, and as long as we don't touch it, it's making us a little bit of interest. Nothing too special, and we can't use the money. However, we talked to a banker, and we got him to use that $20,000 CD to open up a line of credit for us if we ever needed it. Now, the great thing about a line of credit, the line of credit is available, but you're not making any payments at all unless you actually pull out money. So in our circumstance, we've got $20,000 tied up in a CD, and as long as we don't touch it in a year, 2 years, whatever the terms are, we'd get a little bit of interest. Having said that, if option A and B didn't work for some reason, we could take out money against that line of credit, help us for that short period of time. In our specific circumstance, it was interest only, so the payments were a little bit lower, and we would just have to pay off whatever balance we have within a given time period. And in our experience, it was 6 or 12 months, something like that. So, again, not suggesting line of credit or loan, but it is possible. Same thing with the loan. Basically, just talking, I've spoken to bankers. Here's what I'm doing, here's the properties I own, here's how much I owe on them, giving them all my details and financials. And I don't want to take out a loan because I don't want to pay interest and I don't want to make a payment that I don't need to pay. Having said that, I've spoken to bankers that would give me a loan if absolutely necessary. The last item here is sell. Now, personally, I'm very much against this. I've sold one property to date. and because it was a certain property, I was perfectly happy with that. Having said that, when you sell a property, that means in 30 years, you don't get to look back and see what it's done for you. Not just the cash flow, not just the tax benefits, but has that property grown in value? More than likely, tremendously so. So ideally, you won't sell. You'll use one of these three as a short-term fix, but if you sell it, it's very difficult in a lot of cases to buy something for what you just sold it for. Or sorry, to buy something for what you originally purchased it for. So all that to say, if you do sell it, I would have all my numbers in place. What are your closing costs? You're going to have to pay realtors unless you do it for sale by owner. You're going to have to pay taxes, at least in Texas, through whatever day you own the property, and then you'll have additional closing costs on top of that. So you'd be looking at purchase price minus closing costs minus whatever your payoff is for the current loan. So that can get you out of a bad spot, but that definitely is last on my list here. I'm going to go through everything possible to make sure I don't have to sell. So I hope this video was helpful. Have backup plans in place. When something goes wrong, you'll be in a lot better shape and will be a lot less stressed if you prepared for it. Thanks so much. If y'all like the video, if you would subscribe to the channel here. I'm trying to get as much information out as I can to anyone that's interested. So thank y'all for watching. Take care.